Joining us now for a look at the implications of what is apparently still escalating conflict between Israel and Iran, Fred Kempe, CEO and president of the Atlantic Council and a CNBC contributor. We see people, depending on their point of view, Fred, we see all kinds of different analysis of this. I've never seen you more positive about what this could potentially mean for the Middle East, and I happen to agree with you. And more than just preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, but removing the one obstacle from the Middle East to where you could actually bring the entire region into the modern world, theoretically.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for that. Look, I've been hoping for that for a long time. I've been talking to leading Saudi officials who have that vision themselves, have wanted to move forward for Israeli normalization. That would be the big win in the region if the Saudis and Israelis normalize. We're watching right now this war, not for the strikes, although they're incredibly stunning, bolder, more strategic, broader than anything Israel has ever done, but really what comes out of it. And the basis for all this is the Abraham Accords, which the first Trump administration struck. These are normalizing moderate Arab countries. And then you add to that Jordan, Egypt, who have also normalized with Israel. We have a congressional delegation, the Atlantic Council has a congressional delegation in the region right now, which is the Abraham Accords caucus on the Hill. And they decided to go out despite what was going on, because they wanted to push this idea forward. We do it with the Talpin's Foundation, Jeffrey Talpin's Foundation. And the vision is for a Middle East that's economically modernizing, that's religiously tolerant, and that's politically moderate. And so you've got to think about Europe after World War II. Think about the really centuries of disputes that went into that. The only thing really standing in the way of this right now is Iran. And Iran is naked in its air defenses, as you announced this morning. It can't really hit Israel with very much punch. 23 people have died, but they've thrown everything at them and have not succeeded. So this is a historic moment. I don't think the Israelis are going to stop until they really have eroded Iran, maybe even to the point where there's a regime collapse of one sort or another.
I don't think any of us knew, and a lot of us were, many people weren't alive when the Shah fell in the Iranian Revolution, but I don't know if everyone realized that was really the beginning of decades of one country really holding the entire region back with nuclear brinkmanship and extremism, exporting revolution. Yeah, it had Hamas and in Gaza and Hezbollah. You write about all this, the Houthis in Yemen. Everybody else, it seems like if Iran hadn't been the sticking point, we'd even be further along, and maybe that there is hope for what you just described. The Middle East, it doesn't look anything like what we've seen since, 1979?
Not at all. So Iran's in the weakest position it's been since the fall of Saddam Hussein, so 30 years or so. And they have been the arsonist for integration, for peace agreements, whether it's the Camp David Accord, the Abraham Accords. Yeah, don't forget, on October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel, Saudi-Israeli normalization was very close. The Biden administration was down to the last parts of the negotiation. The other thing that's intriguing to me, nobody's writing about this. I have a contact who's very close to the Trump administration, and he was in Iran a couple of weeks ago. He knows Russia very well, Soviet Union very well, former Soviet Union. And he said to me the mood was one of perestroika. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, don't forget, in the latter days of the Soviet Union, there was this economic opening, perestroika, political opening called glasnost. And nobody was predicting the fall of the Soviet Union. But what happened was all the repressive institutions were in place, but they were no longer so fearsome. People had ceased being afraid of them, and they had slowed down in their repression. He says he saw women on the street with scarves off to a degree that he'd never seen in Iran before. And we know they're unhappy with the regime. They must be even more unhappy now. It's very unpredictable what would come out of it. Would it be a military state? Would it be certainly isn't going to be a parliamentary democracy, one wouldn't think. Could the monarchy come back? That's one of the things people are talking about on the streets of Iran. So I think we have history in motion. We just have to see where this goes.
Christine Amanpour was pointing that out over the weekend too, Fred, I think, that just talking about the former monarchy being one of the most well-known names that's there. But you think the idea of an uprising is a realistic one at this point?
Well, Becky, we had it before, and it's often led by women. And there was a real crackdown on women not too long ago. We have a strategic litigation project working on Iran's violations of human rights and other things at the Atlantic Council. It's almost all incredibly impressive Iranian-American women who are lawyers working against the regime. And they've got a lot of allies and friends inside the country as well. So there are a lot of groups, but in the past, their power of repression was just so much greater than that opposing them. And so a lot of things take place in Iran behind the scenes, and you don't see it. But the question is, does it bubble up now?
There's a whole wing of the Republican Party that is just very, I think, aware of the failure of nation-building efforts, the most recent ones that we tried. And I think that's sort of what spawned, I don't know, you take your pick who you want to talk about, that really they don't want any involvement whatsoever with the United States and some of these problem spots. So I think the president is confronted with people on that, from that side of things telling him, what are you doing? Take it easy. And others saying, this is a chance for you to be, 100 years from now, it could be remembered that this is when things happened. But what I'm alluding to is getting dragged into something like allowing bombers, U.S. Equipment, maybe not bombers themselves, but in the bunker busting bombs to take out that remaining nuclear facility. And I know that there's people that want the president to go ahead and and accommodate that somehow for Israel. Do you know anything about where we are on that, and what's the likelihood that happens?
Yeah, Joe, I do. I know quite a bit about that. So Brett McGurk was the person that put those plans in place, helped put those plans in place in the Biden administration. He was the negotiator that he's now come to join us in our N7 Abraham Accords initiative. By the way, he's calling the Israelis have called this Operation Roaring Lion. He calls it Operation Kitchen Sink because of everything they've thrown at it. But the issue is that only the U.S. has the B-2 bombers and the 30,000-pound bombs that can actually go in and take out the deeply dug nuclear sites. I think Trump, by not doing that, by not helping out with this, is saying, I'm going to have this both ways. I'm not going to apply American power. I'm not going to send in American soldiers. But on the other hand, I'm going to stand back and let Israel do what it can do with Iran literally naked now in air defense. So I think those that are criticizing this right now should actually praise Trump for the restraint that he's shown. He gave the Iranians 60 days. Don't forget the strike took place at the 61st day. So whether it was intentional or not, Israel waited for his deadline for negotiations to pass. So I think you also can take a look around the region. Saudi Arabia, Oman, the UAE, Qatar, these are countries with lots of money, trillions in sovereign wealth funds. You've had the fall now of Syria next door, of Hafez al-Assad. This may be one of those moments where the region itself can get together, and yes, we should help. We should help them, but I think we got more. You don't think we're going to do
that? Won't finish the. You think that it's going to be negotiations, and why should we believe that Iran lives up to the whatever the negotiations result in terms of enrichment and everything else? You don't think that which bomber do we need? Which one did you say? The
B-2.
That big B-2 with the bunker busting bombs. That's not in the future for that the Fordo site. You don't think that is going to happen?
So the U.S. policy thus far, I don't know what it is in the Trump administration, the Biden administration, they had to have proof that the regime was moving toward a bomb and absolute intelligence, and they were confident they could get it. the Ayatollahs have said, well, that would violate our religion to go toward a bomb, so we're not going to do it. We just want the fissile material. I just don't know what would set off that kind of bombing in this administration. It may be the same thing, but right now they're so far away from being able to put together a bomb that, and I think a lot has been achieved away from the negotiating table that has increased our leverage in the negotiations.
What would stop President Trump from giving the okay for that? You don't think he will? You don't think that that's a bridge too far? That's too much involvement for the United States in this conflict, given what happened in Iraq and what happened in, I don't know, take your pick, in recent...
Joe, you and I have both been watching this president. He makes decisions very much on his own and from day to day. So what's in this one man's mind makes a lot of difference in the world. And I can't predict how he's looking at it. You can only know what he's said about war in the past.
I know.
And he's been very reluctant to go there. He's very much against what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. And his base elected him partly because of that. So I think it's going to be the last thing he does.
Okay. The last thing, but
well, I think he'll try to avoid it, is what I mean to say, and it would only be Iran doing something pretty silly that would put him in the position to do it.
It feels like maybe we're on the cusp of something really positive, and that's all in your in what you've written lately, Fred. And that not everyone feels that way. It's like, oh, this is horrible. But thank you, appreciate it.
Well, some people could accuse me of wishful thinking, but it's optimists who actually try to change the world for the better. And I think there are a lot of them in the Middle East right now, which is right. One of the big changes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, President Trump calling for a wider immigration crackdown, but he is being lobbied to take it easier on some key sectors of the economy. We've got the latest details after a break. Squawk Box will be right back.